Hey guys, and welcome back to Z3 Cubing. Today I'm making a new 3D printed version of my Z3 logo cube. So around a year ago, I changed the name of my channel to Z3 Cubing. I then had to create for myself a new logo profile picture, and so I designed it, as you can see currently, so that the Z and the 3 are connecting in this kind of interesting pattern like this. Then I realized that I could take a 3x3, take apart all the pieces, and do some modding on it. Basically, I cut down the entire mechanism so that I just had a bunch of plastic cubes, this kind of size and shape, and then I kind of glued them all together in a way, and I used the centerpiece mechanism so that it could spin, and I glued them into the shape of my logo to get this cube right here. Now, you've probably seen this in my intro. That was my idea, to make a twisty puzzle version of my logo, and then have it kind of twist into place in stop motion as a short little sequence as my intro for my videos. And yes, this is actually made out of one 3x3 pretty much exclusively, and with the addition of a little bit of epoxy sculpt and some stickers, I turned it into this. Now, as soon as I uploaded my first video using the new intro with this cube, I got a whole bunch of comments asking if I had 3D printed it, because looking at this, it looks like something that's been 3D printed. It has a very unique shape, but I responded, no, I made it out of a 3x3 like a traditional mod. And I eventually released a video about exactly the process of me doing it, if you want to watch that. But I also realized that I probably could have saved around 20 hours of my life cutting and sanding down parts of a 3x3 if I had indeed 3D printed it, because that's a much faster process. So today, or rather a few days ago, this still took a lot longer than I was expecting, I decided to retroactively fix my mistake and make a second version of this puzzle, but this time 3D printed. That way I could fix some of the inaccuracies, like as you can see here, some of the parts don't line up quite correctly, and also have a version that I could share online if anybody else wanted to make their own. Anyway, I got started with some prototyping. I first tried printing basically just a 1x1x2 that didn't require any assembly, so it would basically just print like this. But as you can see here, this one fell apart. This one I never even got separated. Eventually I refined the design a little bit, but again, it kept falling apart without actually rotating in place. Or this one never wound up coming apart at all. And so eventually I decided that it would be too difficult to try and print them in place right next to each other. And so instead I'd print them two separately and try and snap them together in some way. And so eventually I did make a very nice system that kind of snapped together and made my first 1x1x2 3D printed just like this. You could go ahead and put stickers on this. It would be a fully functional 1x1x2 puzzle. Oh yeah, and I'm not really sure what happened with this design, but I think it's safe to say that it did not perform like I expected a twisty puzzle to. It does look pretty cool though. Anyway, with the two-part design of the 1x1x2 working well, I then decided to just start printing out the pieces of the Z3 puzzle and see how it worked. So I went ahead and printed the first two parts of the Z. I designed it exactly according to the width of the logo, all the dimensions and everything, but it looked like it was a little bit too big relative to the dimensions of the one that I made already. So then I decided to scale everything down a little bit and match it a little bit closer to the size of the original Z3 cube that I had made. Then it was time to start printing. And there we go. After a bit more work cleaning them up, I now have all 6 pieces printed and ready to be assembled for the very first time. Now, as you can see, this is kind of the locking mechanism that I use to hold the pieces into place. So this is part of the Z, and this is the other part of the Z, so it would kind of snap into this little hole right here. Now, the only time I've used this locking mechanism before is in this 1x1x2, the one time. So I'm a little bit nervous that this might not work, and some of these might actually break, and I might have to print some of these pieces again, so we can kind of very carefully snap this together. Like that, and there we go, it rotates. Nothing broke, that looks good. Let's get the bottom of the Z, so it looks like the hole goes right about there. And there we go, we got some good rotation on that one too. Going together very well so far. Let's go ahead and do this 3. So we have this piece and this piece right here. And there we go, that one goes together. A little bit rough, but it still does turn. I think we can probably lube that up and make it turn a little bit better. And finally the top piece goes on just like, oh man, this is kind of hard. The first one that I did was actually the easiest. Snaps in just in place, and there we go, it can turn. So it actually works a lot better than I was expecting. Now let's get the 3 to go in, just like this, and now everything can spin just like on the original puzzle. As you can see, we now have Z3 all 3D printed, just like the original Z3. As you can see, the main difference is actually in the size of the 3. So the Z is almost identical, but the 3 is a little bit wider. So I probably added a little bit extra width right there, which honestly, I think this version looks a little bit better. It's a little bit closer to my real logo, but this one is pretty close too. I'll probably modify the design to make the 3 a little bit smaller and maybe even print it again, who knows. But for the time being, I'm very happy with this. Anyway, yeah, this is awesome. I'm very happy that the attachment mechanism worked perfectly the first time. It might not work super well if you're doing it on another 3D printer. I will link the file that I used down in the description on Thingiverse that you can use to print this out yourself, but just be a little bit careful because the tolerances might be a little bit different on your 3D printer, and it might not work quite exactly the same. You might have to make some adjustments. Anyway, there you go. There is the 3D printed Z3. Also, I love how this one doesn't stay as well as the rest of them. It just kind of wants to go its own way. There we go. It stays pretty well like that. Perfectly fine upright. I do have to sticker this cube up, of course, if I want to make it match this one, but unfortunately stickering is also one of the most difficult processes of making a cube like this. It takes 3 or 4 hours just to cut all these stickers into place. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, and I will see you guys next time.